A dental empire with more than 50 offices across 4 states shipped prototype implants in bags stamped not for human use. Then dentists working for the owners screwed them into the jaws of at least 18 patients. And that wasn't even the biggest crime they were running. This guy, licensed dentist, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. His name was Bhaskar Savani. His brother Arun handled the money. Together they built what prosecutors called the Savani Group. On the surface, more than 50 dental practices, offices in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Iowa, South Carolina, millions in Medicaid contracts, a medical device company called Osiolink USA. Everything looked like a legitimate dental empire, until federal agents started asking one question: where was all the money actually going? The Savani Group ran dental offices that served low-income patients on Medicaid. Medicaid paid the bills. The brothers collected the checks. But in 2014, something changed. Pennsylvania terminated several Savani Group practices from the Medicaid program. That should have been the end. It wasn't. The brothers didn't close the practices. They hid them. According to prosecutors, they recruited nominee owners, people who would put their names on the paperwork, while the Savanis kept full control. New names, same offices, same fraud, and the billing resumed. Dentists who never treated a single patient had their credentials used to file claims. One practice alone, an Allentown office called Smilecrafters Dental, billed Medicaid for roughly $80 million. Across the entire scheme, prosecutors say the Savani Group stole over $32 million from Pennsylvania Medicaid. $32 million from a program designed to help the poorest patients in the state get basic dental care. Consider what that money was supposed to do. A single mother in North Philadelphia, bringing her son in for a cavity filling. A retired factory worker in Allentown, needing a crown he'd been putting off for 2 years. These were the people Medicaid was built for. And the Savanis were billing in their names for treatments some of them never received, performed by dentists who were never in the room. But the fraud didn't stop at billing. The Savanis needed cheap labor, so they turned to the H-1B visa program. They filed false applications claiming they needed specialized workers from India. The workers arrived expecting legitimate jobs. Instead, they were placed in basic office support roles, answering phones, filing paperwork, jobs that had nothing to do with the specialized skills their visas required. And then came the kickbacks. According to federal filings, workers were forced to return portions of their salaries back to the Savani Group. If they refused, deportation. Their visas were tied to the Savanis, their legal status, their ability to stay in the country. The workers weren't employees, they were hostages. Imagine leaving your family in Mumbai or Delhi, flying 12,000 miles on the promise of a specialized career in America, only to find out you're answering phones at a dental clinic in suburban Pennsylvania. And if you complain, you lose your visa. You lose your right to stay. You go home with nothing. That was the leverage, and the Savanis used it to make the visa fraud look legitimate. The brothers set up a front company called Easy Biotech in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania. It had lab equipment inside, but according to investigators, the equipment was non-functional. It existed for one reason: to fool immigration inspectors during facility visits. And then there was the part that made even federal agents pause. The brothers shipped prototype dental implants labeled not for human use to their own offices, where employed dentists placed them into the mouths of at least 18 real patients, without a single one knowing. If this is your first time here, subscribe. New case every day. These implants had not been cleared by the FDA. They had not been tested for safety. They had not been approved for use in any human being. The manufacturers labeled them not for human use, because that is exactly what they meant, and the Savanis put them in anyway, through a company called Osiolink USA, also based in Fort Washington. The brothers were allegedly developing their own implant line, but instead of going through the FDA approval process, they reportedly used their own patients as test subjects. No consent forms, no clinical trials, no oversight, just bags marked with a warning nobody showed the patients. 18 people walked into a dental office trusting their doctor. They walked out with metal in their jaws that had never been tested on a single human being, and all of it funded by Medicaid fraud money, laundered through what prosecutors called a web of shell companies, designed to make the money untraceable. The brothers also allegedly failed to report approximately $1.6 million in personal income to the IRS, plus another $1.1 million in employee wages. They reportedly claimed fraudulent deductions for tuition, property taxes, even pool maintenance. The brothers also reportedly spent lavishly. Properties in Pennsylvania, properties in Iowa, a property in Hawaii, 27 in total, purchased while Medicaid patients sat in waiting rooms thinking they were getting real care. By 2022, the Savani Group had generated over $316 million in revenue, and prosecutors sought forfeiture of every single one of those 27 properties. So what was the Savani Group, really? It wasn't a dental business, it was a criminal enterprise. RICO charges, racketeering, the kind of indictment usually reserved for organized crime. 42 counts in all. Here's what investigators found. $32 million stolen from Medicaid. False H-1B visas exploiting workers from India. Kickbacks extracted under threat of deportation. Unapproved dental implants placed in patients without consent. Front companies built to deceive federal inspectors. Money laundered through shell companies and real estate. Tax fraud concealing millions in unreported income. 12 people were charged. A years-long investigation involving nearly a dozen agencies: FBI, IRS Criminal Investigation, HHS Office of Inspector General, Homeland Security, the State Department, the FDA. It took all of them to untangle what two brothers built. And how did they finally get caught? According to court records, it started with the visa fraud. Immigration authorities noticed a pattern. Too many H-1B applications from the same cluster of companies, all tied to Fort Washington, Pennsylvania, all listing specialized lab positions that didn't match the actual job duties. That thread led to the Medicaid billing. The billing led to the shell companies. The shell companies led to the implants, and the implants led to the 18 patients who had no idea what was in their mouths. One fraud uncovered every other fraud, like pulling a single thread and watching the entire empire unravel. The trial lasted weeks. The evidence filled boxes. On March 9, 2026, a federal jury convicted 3 of them. Bhaskar Savani, 31 counts. Arun Savani, 28 counts. Alexandra Radomiak, their longtime executive, 3 counts. Bhaskar faces a statutory maximum of 420 years in prison. Arun faces 415. Sentencing is scheduled for July 2026. A third brother, Niranjan Savani, was acquitted of all charges. So was the accountant and a chemist. But the class action is still coming. And the 18 patients who had unapproved implants placed in their jaws, they're still living with devices that no regulator ever cleared for the inside of a human mouth. And nobody has told them whether those implants are safe or ticking time bombs. They didn't just defraud Medicaid. They turned their own patients into lab experiments and billed the government for it. Subscribe for a new case every day at The Reckoning Files.